Hello guys, today we are going to be studying the poem on Killing a Tree by Gieve Patel. So in this video I'm going to be discussing the title of the poem, the biography of the poet, the stanza-wise explanation of the poem, the themes and the green movement along with a concept called eco-criticism. First, let's get started with the title of the poem. On Killing a Tree. On Killing a Tree, as we see, is a very simple title, or at least appears to be. So it is pretty evident what the poem is talking about. It's talking about killing a tree. But do you think the poem is really teaching us how to kill a tree? No. You see, the poem is written in a satirical sense. It is a satire. What is the meaning of the word satire? It means sarcasm. Sarcasm or satire, satire. So what kind of satire exactly is the poem trying to make? You see, the poet Gieve Patel is trying to show how human beings mistreat the environment and destroy and pollute the environment. The poem exposes man's cruelty to nature, and that's what the poem is all about. So, on Killing a Tree, the title is extremely significant and is justified and apt because it is, in a satirical sense, truly exposing how humans are depleting the natural resources and destroying Mother Nature. That was the significance of the title. Make sure you use these two keywords, which is one satire and the other is exposing cruelty of mankind towards nature. These are the two most important keywords, and I hope you understood the title. Next, we will move on to the biography of the poet Gieve Patel. Many people also pronounce his name as Gieve Patel or Gieve Patel. It's a proper noun. Pronunciations often vary, but however, I'm going to be pronouncing it as Gieve Patel, and please just remember the spelling because that's what's important. Is an Indian playwright. Playwright is somebody who writes plays and dramas. Painter, poet, and physician or doctor. That's rather interesting because I don't know or I've not heard of many painters or poets who are also doctors. If you know any other poets who are doctors, then name them in the comment section. So he was born in 1940 in Bombay, which is now obviously called Mumbai. He was a doctor who was educated in St. Xavier's High School and Grant Medical College. He now lives in Dubai. He now lives in Mumbai and he retired in 2005. So that was about the poet. We will uh, go on to the first stanza of the poem, but I would like to discuss one little thing before we do that, which is something called the Green Movement. You see, the Green Movement was basically a campaign or a movement which was organized by a few people who were concerned for the environment and wanted to protect and save our environment and nature. And there were a lot of writers who were part of this green movement, and Gieve Patel was one of them. Now, what did these writers do? They wrote poems, plays, stories, novels, which focused on environmental conservation, protecting our environment, saving our earth, and it spoke about various environmental problems. Like this poem focuses on the environmental problem of deforestation. What is deforestation? Deforestation is the act of cutting down trees. So just remember these two phrases, that Gieve Patel was a part of the green movement which inspired him to write poems like this, which aimed at protecting the environment, and he raises questions about about a problem called deforestation, which means cutting down of trees. Right? And his poems reflect deep concerns for nature and expose humans' cruelty to it. Now we will go to the first stanza of the poem itself. It takes much time to kill a tree. Notice how the poet uses the word kill and not cut. Generally, when we speak about destroying or harming trees, we say that the tree has been cut down. But here, the poet says that the tree is being killed. You see, we generally use the word kill to refer to a human or an animal. Thus, the tree here has been personified, and the literary device is personification. What is personification? Personification is the attribution or assignment. It's basically when you give human qualities to objects and things which are not human. So a tree is not a human, obviously, but it is still said to be killed as if it were a human who was getting killed. So the tree has been personified here. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. So the first sentence is a pretty simple one, which has the meaning is pretty clear that it is a time consuming process to kill a tree. It is not a very quick or easy or swift process. It takes time, and not a simple jab of the knife will do it. Jab means to strike, or prod is a better word actually. Uh, so it means basically, plunging or stabbing or driving a sharp object into something. So the poet says that you can't just kill a tree by plunging or driving a knife into the tree. That is not going to kill it. It is not that simple. Then the poem describes how the tree has grown. But before that, I would like to highlight one thing here. You notice that this is actually the tree is here, so it's one sentence, and not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown. Between these two sentences, there is no punctuation. So this sentence just flows into the next one, right? This is called enjambment. Enjambment is when a line flows into the next one without any punctuation separating the two lines. That is called enjambment. So make a note of this literary device. It has then the poet describes how the tree has grown, the growth of the tree. It has grown, slowly consuming the earth. The word here, consuming, does not mean eating. Generally, when we say consume, we mean eat. This here, here obviously it does not mean eat, but here it means utilizing the resources of the earth to derive nutrition. Earth here actually means the soil. It actually means the soil where the tree is going to grow. So it derives the nutrients from the soil and grows and rises out of it, so it's growing, feeding upon its crust. Where crust means the crust of the earth, where if you in the lithosphere in geography you must have learned where the nutrients and all are. And how is it growing? By absorbing years of sunlight, air, and water. If you're a science student, you must be knowing about photosynthesis, which is how plants make their own food and utilize that food to grow using sunlight, carbon dioxide, etc. So sunlight, air, and water is being absorbed by the tree to grow. And out of its leprous hide is actually a metaphor. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is a indirect comparison between two distinct objects without using as or like. When you use as or like to compare, it's called simile, but here it is a metaphor. So basically, the poet compares the bark of that tree. You must have seen a tree bark. The bark of the tree to the skin of a person afflicted or suffering from a disease called leprosy. What is leprosy? Leprosy is a disease wherein the human skin becomes reddish, haggard, rough, unscaly. So that rough texture of the leprosy skin, the leprous skin, is being compared to the bark, because the tree bark is also rough and wrinkled and scarred, that's why. So it's a metaphor. Sprouting leaves, and obviously when the tree grows, it sprouts leaves, flowers, fruits, so many things, right? So this was the first stanza. It basically describes the growth of the tree. The main literary devices are enjambment. You can see that on the screen, I'm sure. Enjambment, metaphor, personification. These are the three major ones that you must remember. Okay. We will go to the second stanza now. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. See, again enjambment. One line flows into the next one. I won't actually, this poem has a lot of enjambment, so I won't be continually pointing it out. I just told you what it means, so you can find it out yourself now. This is also an enjambment, by the way. This sentence flows into the next one, right? Okay. So sorry about that. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. So hacking and chopping, what does it mean? Hacking and chopping means to cut down the tree, to chop down the tree. But the poet says that that also won't alone kill the tree. He differentiates between cutting and killing. They're not the same thing according to him. Because even if you cut down a tree, you are not killing the tree. It will not do the it will not give the tree much pain. Not so much pain will do it. So the poet says that even cutting and chopping and hacking the tree will not cause it as much pain, and it won't kill the tree. What will happen if you do that? The bleeding bark will heal. The bleeding bark is again personified here, and it's also a metaphor. How is it personified? The poet basically personifies the tree. So how a human would bleed. you know there would be blood oozing out from the skin if a human was cut, got cut somehow, got injured somehow. So just like that, the tree also will bleed when it will be cut. But it is also a metaphor because the poet again compares the bark to the human skin. And the tree sap is this white liquid that is often found in many trees when after they are cut, and compares that tree sap to blood, and says that just how the human skin will bleed blood, the tree bark will bleed tree sap. Okay. Another thing that I would like you to notice is, look at this. This is an example of the literary device of alliteration. What is alliteration? When two continuous words start with the same consonant letter. See, B, B, bleeding bark. This is an example of the word of the literary device alliteration. And from close, see, again there is enjambment. I can't keep pointing it out, but see, there is lots of it. And now I'm talking about enjambment, so I should mention this thing, that this poem has no rhyme scheme. It has been written in free verse. What is rhyme scheme? You see, you in the entire poem you will not find any rhyming words. So that is why it's written in free verse. The poems which do not have a rhyming scheme are said to be written in free verse, and enjambment is very common in free verse poems. That is why you can again see enjambment here, in so many places, right? Again in here. So just keep an eye out for that, and remember that the poem is written in free verse. And from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs. Curled green twigs basically mean those little grasses and ferns which grow after the tree has been cut. Even after that, these grasses and all small plants, they grow. So that is curled green twigs. And miniature boughs are also those small plants and saplings which will grow. If unchecked will expand again. Expand means here to grow. I'll write that down. grow to former size. Former means to the previous state. So suppose if you cut a tree down, it is huge in size. When you cut it down, there will be these curled green twigs and miniature boughs which will again grow to that same size. So just how huge this tree was, this tree will also be of the same size. That is what it means by former size. I hope that's clear. So that was the second stanza. The main literary devices were alliteration, personification, and metaphor. Just keep a note of these three and remember that the poem has been written in free verse. All right. Let's move on to the third stanza now. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. Anchoring earth means the part of the soil which holds the root. So the poet says that to truly kill a tree, what do you have to do? You have to actually uproot it. You have to take out the root. Okay. Out of the anchoring earth, it has to be roped, tied, pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely from the earth cave. Now, basically, both anchoring earth and earth cave refer to the roots of the tree. And you see, another thing that I would like to point out here is the literary device called caesura. Caesura is basically, I hope you have noticed these little dashes here, here, and also here. Actually, not this one, but still you can count it. These are basically line breaks which give a sort of a pausing effect, and that's called caesura. That's also a literary device. Then we see that the phrase pulled out has been repeated 1, 2, and 3 times. So when one thing is getting repeated again, it's the literary device of repetition. So the poet says that the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. The tree has to be uprooted to kill it, and the strength of the tree exposed. So the tree is left, the strength is destroyed, the tree's strength and resilience is destroyed. It is left helpless and weak. The source white and wet. The white and wet is again the tree sap which is found on cutting down a tree. So the source white and wet is exposed, it is let out, it oozes out the tree sap, and the tree is hindered, immobile, and weak. It's the strength of the tree is destroyed, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. So the root, the most sensitive and hidden part of the tree is the root, which has been hiding inside the soil for so many years, that is also destroyed. And now, students, you have to understand one thing, that is, although this poem is written about a tree, it is also a metaphor. The entire poem is a metaphor for humans as well. How? It is saying that a human being also cannot be defeated if it is strong, if it holds on to its principles and beliefs and does good deeds. That is the root of the human being. The roots, we say our roots, right? What does our root mean? Our identity, our belief, our principles. So if we as humans hold on to our roots, we can never be defeated. We'll be indefatigable. Indefatigable means somebody who cannot be defeated. So the poem, while also teaching us to save our environment, is also teaching us to be strong. So the tree is not only a symbol for nature, but it is also a metaphor for human life. We will now go on to the fourth stanza. Then the matter of scorching and choking. So scorching and choking in sun and air basically means, when the sun's rays are too hot, it is unbearably hot and extremely the extreme heat is acting upon the tree. It gets dried up and the water content of the tree is taken out, which is what choking is. And what happens when the water content is taken out? It turns brown, it hardens, it withers. So it basically it gets choked, and then it is done. What is it? It is the act of killing a tree. So only when you uproot a tree and you leave it alone to die, basically, in the sun, in the heat, leave it to brown and harden and twist and wither, that is when the tree is truly killed. So again, you can see the enjambment over here, not anymore over here. So now I'm going to discuss the themes. But before I do that, just I would like to mention a few points. Number one, the poem is basically not only telling us about how it is a crime to kill a tree, it is also teaching us to be strong and determined. Throughout the poem, the tree is not only a symbol for nature but also a metaphor for human life. Number two, the poem is written in free verse. There is no rhyming scheme. So these are 2 points which you must remember. I'm going to write that down so that it is easy for you to recall. So just remember these 2 points. The tree is also a metaphor for human life and it is a free verse poem. So just these 2 points, you can note it down. Just note it down. That's enough. Okay, this was just to recapitulate a few important things. Now we'll move on to the themes of the poem. The first theme is violence against nature and the thoughtlessness of man. You see, the poem exposes how violent human beings are. They are so cruel and they are so ruthless that they are cutting down trees. The poem wants to convey that it is a crime to kill a tree. And he wants to send us a message that we must not be so thoughtless. Thoughtless means somebody who does not think about anybody else and just is a selfish person who is not at all thoughtful and mindful and just destroys things and is basically very cruel to other people. So, so the poet is trying to say that we as humans, we as a society are very cruel to the natural world. We do not make enough efforts to protect the natural world. So we should stop this violence against nature and we should stop being so cruel and thoughtless. So that is why one of the most important themes is violence against nature and the thoughtlessness of humans. The next theme is resilience and strength. You see, the tree is a symbol for the natural world, and it is shown as something which is extremely strong, determined, fierce, resilient. So the poem is trying to teach us to be just as strong and determined, as just as fierce, just as resilient as that tree. The next theme is relationship between humans and nature. I have already mentioned this point before, that the tree is a metaphor for the human life as well. So the poet compares the tree to human life and establishes how, just like the tree, a person cannot be killed unless they are uprooted. In this sense, the tree is symbolic of a human being. An individual is made up of their roots, their birth, upbringing, and social surroundings. They acquire nourishment in the form of love, care, and education from parents, teachers, and peers. And when an individual is properly nourished on these, it becomes difficult to destroy them. Here, death is also symbolic. It represents spiritual death. So, this poem is not only talking about keeping trees safe from harm for the sake of our ecosystem, but also talking about this protection of spiritual lives of human beings. So this is also a very important theme. I will just tell you the keywords here. Obviously, the three themes are the three keywords, but also the indomitable resilience of the tree, uh, destructive relationship, then this entire explanation of roots, social critic, and protection of spiritual lives. If these things you discuss in your answers, then you are bound to score more marks. So please try to understand these three themes and try to keep them in your mind when you're studying the poem. Next, we're going to discuss a very important concept called eco-criticism. What is eco-criticism? Eco-criticism is basically a literary theory or a form of analysis which focuses on how literature, the human world, is connected to the natural world. So, eco-criticism is basically about writing literature that empowers humans to save, protect, and interact with the natural world. Now, why is this poem an eco-critical poem? Because it highlights themes, these themes which are mentioned on the slide: human nature relationship, environmental degradation, conservation and sustainability, and disconnection from nature. The poem also highlights two very important environmental problems. Number one is deforestation, which is, of course, all of you must know, the cutting down of trees. And another important concept, which is anthropocentrism. This is probably a new word. Anthropocentrism is basically a practice by humans where human needs, human desires, human wants are prioritized, are given more importance over the preservation, over the protection of the natural world. So that's what anthropocentrism is. So if you use these terms and keep in mind the concept of eco-criticism, that will also help you to enhance your answers. I hope that this video made you familiar with the very important concepts and helped you understand what this poem was all about. If you have any doubts, please uh, raise those questions in the comment section and I will answer them. I hope you all enjoyed this video thoroughly. Please subscribe if it was helpful to you. Uh, Hopefully, I'll be able to come up with a video very soon next time. Thank you.